Good morning students, I welcome you all for the online class of economics. Today we will be proceeding with the next topic, that is yesterday's class. Once again I want to remind, first of all, today's class we will be going to learn the law of demand. But before that, let us rewind one of the topic of yesterday's class, that is market demand functions today. Market demand function shows how market demand for a commodity or aggregate demand for a commodity in the market is related to its various determinants. As I explained to you, in this market demand function, the determinants of individual demand will be there, plus two more determinants will be coming there. As market demand function, when we learn market demand function, factors are own price of the commodity, X, price of related goods, that is complementary and substitute goods, then income of the consumers, T is the taste and preference, E is the expectation, N is the number of population, number of buyers, YD equals to distribution of income. So this way we will be getting this particular part, students. Let us proceed with the topic. When we see population size, student, it says that yes, definitely, as is given one example yesterday's class also, when one family's population suddenly increases, definitely demand for things also increase there, because it has to be fulfilled for a whole economy, whole family. So where there we see the demand for a particular commodity increase in the family, so population size depends that only, that says when the population of increases, definitely demand also increases in the number of buyers. Example, owing to a substantial increase in the number of buyers, the demand for cars has substantially risen in India. Distribution of income. When we see distribution of income, market demand is also influenced by the distribution of income in the society. If redistribution of income increases, inequality become, then the rich become richer and poor becoming poorer. So distribution of income also plays a very important role in the market demand function, because as the income of the people increases, the demand for the goods increases, but as the poor people, they are still poor, so there the demand will not increase as the supply will increase. The demand for luxury goods is expected to rise, because as the people are becoming our income increase there, so middle income group people also comfortably they can purchase the luxurious goods what they want. Also, a fall in the income of the poor people compel them to shift from normal to inferior goods, implying a rise in demand for inferior goods like coarse grain. Law of demand, when we state, students, after these factors of market demand, we will be seeing there law of demand. The law of demand states that other things being equal, quantity demanded increases with a decrease in own price of the commodity, and vice versa. In our word, there is an inverse relationship between quantity demanded and of a commodity and its own price, other things remaining constant. The term other things implies that all other determinants of demand other than own price of commodity remains constant. The law of demand states that other things remaining constant, there is an inverse relationship between quantity demanded and own price of the commodity, which we have learnt in the beginning of the chapter also. This law of demand is very important, student. Always remembers that law of demand states that it is an inverse relationship between the demand and own price of the commodity. Why are goods demanded? We demand goods and services because these have capacity to satisfy our wants. The capacity to satisfy human wants is called utility. Thus, we can state that goods are demanded because these possess utility. Explanation: the law of demand may be explained with the help of demand schedule. The demand schedule states that Px and Qx, when we see the price of the commodity X and Qx, what we are seeing? The price of the commodity X is 10, Qx is 100. When the price of the commodity declines by 9, definitely quantity demand will increase of the customer. This is a psychological issues of the human being, that when the price decreases, a person go to consume something, they want to consume more. Okay, so that only we are seeing here the relationship. This itself is known as demand schedule, the tabular data which represent an individual person demanding for a goods according to the price. And what we are seeing in the price is declining, the demand for the goods, that is quantity X is increasing there. So this states that inverse relationship, as one thing is declining, another thing is increasing. The schedule shows that quantity demanded increases from 100 to 150 units when own price of the commodity reduces from rupees 10 to rupees 9 per unit. Likewise, quantity demanded increases from rupees 150 to 200 units when own price of the commodity reduces from rupees 9 to rupees 8 per unit. It may be further illustrated with the help of a demand curve as in figure number 3. What we state here, DD slopes downward. It shows inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. This is universally true in case of normal goods. It is therefore called law of demand. What the law of demand now in the graph stating that y-axis and x-axis. Y-axis price first of all and the x-axis quantity. Please draw these graphs in your copy, and very simple graph is there. Nothing is complicated in this graph. What is there? No numerical value is there, but one thing is there. From P it has been started. When the price was P, the quantity demanded was Q. Can you see this line, straight line, what has been explained there? Okay. And now when the price declines, as in the above situation, price decline, the quantity demanded curve is not there. As before, it has increased. The first class, how much quantity was there, according to that it has decreased. The point of locus where the 2 points are joining, draw a straight line. What you are seeing, the demand curve is sloping down. Okay, DD slopes downward and it shows inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. With this is universally true in case of which goods? Normal goods. It is therefore called the law of demand. Assumption of the law of demand, very important student, learn it properly. Assumptions of the law of demand. The law of demand holds good when the other things remain the same. It means factors influencing demand other than own price of the commodity are assumed to be constant. Thus, taste and preference of the consumer are assumed to remain constant. There is no change in income of the buyers. Price of the related good do not change. Okay, related goods means, like for example, complementary or substitute goods. Here all the factors are same, only one factor is changing, that is own price of the commodity. Why the demand is going up and down? Because people taste and preference is constant, not change. Expectation not change, it is constant. The income is also constant. Price of related goods is also not change, it is also constant. Consumer do not expect, I said expectation, taste, related goods price, everything is constant. Which factor change? Own price of commodity. And when own price of commodity changes, the demand also goes in inverse relationship, and that states the assumption of law of demand. So this you have to write, that all the other determinants of demand remains constant, but only one factor of demand changes, that is own price of the commodity. It is important to note that the assumption of the law of demand refers to all the other determinants of demand other than own price of the commodity. The law of demand studies the relationship between demand for a commodity and own price of the commodity on the assumption that all other determinants of demand remain constant. Why more of a good is purchased when its price falls? Why does demand curve slope downward? Why the question arises like this? So why more of a good is purchased when its price falls? Because it is a general tendency of a consumer. They think when the price falls, it is a good time to purchase more and keep in the stock, because any time the price can increase in the future period of time. By seeing that, the people purchase more, and in that situation, when price is falling, the goods demand is increasing. It will show law of demand, inverse relationship. And this, when we will draw the slope of this, so when we draw the demand curve, it will be sloping downward. So downward slope of demand curve indicate that more is purchased in response to fall in price of the commodity. Thus there is inverse relationship between own price of a commodity, as I already said these 2 points, and its quantity demanded. This may be explained in terms of the following factors. Very first, law of diminishing marginal utility. According to this law, as consumption of a commodity increases, marginal utility derived from the consumption of the goods decrease. Yes, definitely. When daily, first on Monday, if we have purchased 1 kg of apples, and the Tuesday we have purchased another 1 kg, and daily we are consuming the apples. In the week, we have taken fruits as apple only. Definitely on Saturday, our marginal utility derived from that consumption of apple will decline. It is daily declining. From Wednesday onwards, it start declining when we are getting the same fruit as for consumption purpose, no other fruits in the home. Then what we will be seeing, our satisfaction from that goods will go down. That itself is known as marginal utility derived from the consumption of the goods will decline. So that is law of diminishing marginal utility. Okay, I think this meaning is clear. Accordingly, for every additional unit to be purchased, the consumer is willing to pay less and less price. So when the, like for example, seasonal fruits, when it come in the beginning it is having high cost, but they, in the 3 months, if they are getting that fruits only, not any other fruits available in the market, definitely first month the price which was high, second month it will be going down, and the third month it will be becoming too less, and there the people will consume more. Okay. Income effect, when we see student, income effect refers to changing quantity demanded when the income of the buyer changes owing to change in price of the commodity. So income effect says that when the income of the person changes, the quantity demanded also changes. When the income of the buyer changes owing to change in price of the commodity. When fall in price, real income increases. Okay. Accordingly, demand for the commodity expands. Substitution effect, when it says substitution effect, here it, if income effect you are getting doubt, it is just stating when the income of the person increase and price of the goods is stable, constant, it is not rising. What the people will be doing, has they are got the more income for the consumption, they will demand more, so the demand of the goods will expand. Substitution effect, what it show? Substitution value, substituted goods, complementary goods, what it will be showing there? Substitution effect refers to substitution of one commodity in place of other for the other when it becomes relatively cheaper. Thus, when own price of commodity X falls, it becomes cheaper in relation to commodity Y. Accordingly, X is substituted for Y. Tea and coffee are substituted for each other. With a fall in the price of tea, it is substituted in place of coffee. Definitely, as we already taken these two examples for the whole chapter, tea and coffee too are there. If someone is consuming coffee and suddenly coffee price is going too much high, what the person can do? If he is not able to manage with that, maximum family do. If the increase in the income, what increase in the price, what they will substitute. They will shift their demand from coffee to tea. As tea and coffee are the substitute goods, and they are giving same type of activeness. With a fall in the price of tea, it is substituted in place of coffee. As the demand of coffee will increase, it is an expansion of demand due to substitution effects. Okay, the demand for coffee will increase, and the demand of tea will increase, and the coffee demand will decline. So it is a substitution effect. People are consuming there, but they had shifted their demand from one thing to another. Size of consumer group, when we see, when price of a commodity falls, many more buyers can afford to buy it. Accordingly, demand expands. Different uses, when we see, a good may have several uses. Milk, for example, is used to making curd, cheese and butter. If price of milk reduces, it will be put to different uses. Accordingly, demand for milk expands. Exemptions to the law of demand. When we think about exception to the law of demand, it states that law of demand has some exceptions as well. There are some commodities which where demand expands when their price and rise, and contract when their price falls. In such situation, the demand curve DD slopes upward from left to right. Following are some notable exemptions to the law of demand. Articles of distinction. According to Professor Veblen, there are certain goods which command social distinction. Veblen calls them as articles of social distinction. These articles are demanded only because their prices are very high. If their prices fall, they will no longer be considered as articles of distinction, as their demand will shrink. Thus, these goods defy the law of demand. Diamonds and vintage cars may be cited as examples. So articles of distinction state that exemption, there are some exception, means law of demand will be always same. As price of the sum of the goods will fall, then only the demand will increase. If the price will increase, the demand will fall. That that is law of demand. But there are some cases exemptions, like rich income group people. They will not be doing any type of downfall in the consumption when whether the income increase or decrease. Their consumption is always same. There are some goods, articles of distinctions are there. Like for example, there are some Veblen calls there are certain goods which command social distinction. Okay, Veblen calls them as article of social distinction. If their price falls, they will no longer be considered as article of distinction. Their demand will shrink. Okay, thus these goods defy the law of demand. Like for example, coarse grain we have seen. Coarse grain demand, when the income increases, their demand will decrease. Instead of increasing, it will decrease. People will shift the demand from inferior to superior goods. That is article of distinction. There are these goods defy the law of demand. Means they are against the law of demand. Precious diamonds and vintage cars may be cited as example. Articles of distinction. People demand, when the income increase, the people demand these goods. Though their price is increased or their price is stable but costly, but still people prefer when the income increases. What we are seeing, as the price is increasing, demand is increasing instead of falling down. So this is one of the exception to law of demand. Articles of distinction. Second is given goods. Given goods are highly inferior goods, showing a very high negative income effect. As a result, when price of such commodities falls, the demand also falls, even when they happen to be relatively cheaper than other goods. This is popularly known as given paradox. When consumers judge quality of a commodity by its price, law of demand is violated when consumers judge the quality of a commodity by price. The emerging trend to buy organic farm products explain the phenomena of this. Okay, perhaps it is owing to a huge price difference between organic and non-organic product in the market. Then the richer sections of the society don't want to make any type of quality down. They want organic products, though their price is high. In that situation, we will see law of demand is not working. Accordingly, quantity demanded of these products has tended to rise even when the prices are extremely high. This is about the type of goods. Demand curve slopes upward when law of demand fails. What it shows? When law of demand falls, the demand curve does not slope downward. Instead, it slopes upward, as in figure number 4. So, when price increases from OP1 to OP2, demand extends from OQ1 and to OQ2. Conversely, when price decreases from OPQ2 to OP1, demand shrinks from OQ2 to OQ1. This is the graphical. Because of that, so many variables are there. We have already explained to you. Demand curve slopes upward when law of demand fails. Definitely, law of demand, like these articles of distinction, given goods situation, when consumer judge quality of a product, they don't want to compromise with the quality of the product. They always want a high quality. Nowadays, medium income group people also, with their less income, they want the quality product. They are judgmental about the quality of the product. So they are ready to pay for the higher prices. So people want higher prices but quality to be maintained. Then they will be purchasing and demanding more. So that cases the law of demand is not working as it was working earlier. Law of demand fails here in this situation when we see here what it has been explained. The income and the y and the x-axis and the zero originating point, quantity and price is there. See what is happening there. First the demand was P1 and Q1. When the income increases, what it is, their demand is increasing. The quantity is also increasing. So this is the when we will join this line, quantity demand line, it will be sloping upwards. D to D, it is sloping upwards now. P1 to P2, it is sloping upward, not declining down. How you will be recognizing? See, from P1 to P2 it is increasing, so it is sloping upward. There the diagram what we were seeing, from P to P1 it was declining, so it was sloping downward. Now it is sloping upward. So this graph even you will get when the demand will increase and it will fall. It will fail the law of demand. Derivation of law of demand from consumer's equilibrium point. One commodity case, when we see the consumer strikes his equilibrium, when we have learnt there consumer equilibrium, when it will strike, when MUX divided by PX equals to MUM. What is MUM? Worth of a money. See the student, worth of a money depends on person to person. Like for a poor person, 100 rupees is so much valuable, but for a rich income group it is a mere small currency, that is 100 rupees. Daily they are doing expenditure of 100 rupees, so for them the value is very less as compared to the poor people who if get 100 rupees will be able to manage for 3 or the 4 days that 100 rupees. So their worth of a rupee depends on the person to person. MUX, that is the marginal utility derived from product X, which will be always going down. As we will increase the consumption, the marginal utility derived from the product will decrease. PX, that is the price of commodity X. Suppose PX falls as a result, what will be the result? PX falls, MUX divided by PX will be greater than MUM, worth of a money. Okay, this induces the consumer to buy more of commodity X. Higher consumption of commodity X will lead to fall in marginal utility. Definitely, if the price falls and we will consume more, definitely on the second day marginal utility derived from product X will be declining. According to the law of diminishing marginal utility, increase in purchase of commodity X would continue till the equilibrium is restored. Thus, we find that a falling price of X lead to a rising quantity demanded, which is what called the law of demand states. Derivation of law of demand from the consumer's equilibrium equation to commodity case. The consumer strike his equilibrium when it will when the mu is divided by px equals to MUY divided by PY. This in two commodity case, X and Y product. That both the product must come in the budget, that is MUM. In case PX falls, price of the commodity falls, then what will be happening? There will be more of the commodity consumption of X. This implies that a rupee worth of satisfaction in case of goods X is greater than the rupee worth of satisfaction in the case of goods Y, because price of X is falling down, and when it will fall, people will consume more of X than the Y. Accordingly, the consumer should be prompted to spend more on X and less on Y, as the price of X is less than the Y. This quantity demanded of a commodity X would increase in response to a fall in the price of X. This is what the law of demand states. Derivation of law of demand from the law of diminishing marginal utility. When we see derivation of the law of demand from the law of diminishing marginal utility explained with reference to the law of demand. Here I will be explaining in the next class this graph. Now I am not explaining because it needs from the starting. Thank you for today's class. Have a nice day. Read this topic properly for tomorrow's class.